Right, honestly, I cannot stand it when a video game developer or publisher basically lies to me about what their game is. Who do you think I am? Some schmo who doesn't have feelings, and hopes, and wants? That is incorrect, you numpties. But seriously, there is nothing worse than getting your hopes up for a digital experience that sounds like it's right up your alley, and then finding out that's not the case at all. And that it was only drummed up this way because everyone involved just wanted to create a buzz. That's not fair, man. You took my emotions and threw them in the dirt, like seeds. I'm Simon from WhatCulture.com. This is 8 video games that turned out nothing like we were promised. Number 8, Far Cry 3. A slight ruse to start the list because Far Cry 3 was still a very good game, so it's hard to be overly mad at it. It did offer you a huge environment to explore, hunt, shoot and collect stuff in, and Ubisoft had clearly gone to great lengths to make it feel as awesome as possible. And the key there is, as possible. Because if you return to the E3 initial gameplay footage that did set a lot of people on the idea, it's nothing like this. The concept is there, but the final version is nowhere near as fluid or that good looking. Ultimately, the visuals have just been pushed up to create a representation as opposed to the real deal. Thankfully, the game was on track, which is what matters most. But it's always unfair, especially if technical grunt is your bag. That didn't live up to what was promised. Number 7, Killzone 2. Straight up, Killzone 2 is one hell of a boring video game, only topped by Killzone 3, which genuinely is the most dull of them all. 2 still deserves a kicking for how much it duped everyone. The first footage we were shown in 2007 to highlight how powerful the PS3 was going to be was crazy. This was the new generation of games, it was going to blow everything else out the water. Who wouldn't want that? The answer is no one. The problem though is that soon after Sony confirmed this was all pre-rendered, which meant Killzone 2 was not going to look this way, and it dropped even further when the final game looked nothing like it at all. There was no way any of this was even in-engine given what we got in the end, or if it wasn't playing by the PS3's rules. You could argue that even today we haven't seen something that ran the way Killzone 2 was meant to here. Just a stabbing in the back. Number 6, BioShock Infinite. Much like Far Cry 3, BioShock Infinite was pretty awesome when all was said and done, so no one was that mad, but you'd still be disappointed if you saw what it was and where it got to in the end. The debut footage that aired at E3 a few years before was nothing like the final version, pushing out visuals, gameplay and even physics that were mind-blowing. If Irrational had released that, Infinite very may well be the best game ever made. There are similarities between the two of course, but the original demo has a ton more atmosphere and personality, and that's saying something. I would guess that even if you did buy in because of what was shown off at first, you wouldn't have been too upset when you played it, but it's not the same. It's just not. Number 5, Metal Gear Solid 2. In many ways, Metal Gear Solid 2 is just one massive troll from Hideo Kojima. Insanely anticipated during the build-up to release, knowing that soon we could all step back into the shoes of Solid Snake was a very exciting proposition, and Konami made sure that the advertising around the game was all focused on that too. And then that didn't happen. While you did get to reacquaint yourself with Snake for a little bit, after a couple of hours he vanished and you were put in the shoes of Raiden instead. And who the hell was that? In short, millions of fans were shocked this twist took place, and you spent most of your time looking at Snake's ass as he served as a secondary character that talked to you every now and then. What's worse, Raiden was a moany little knob that never shut up. Metal Gear Solid 2 was still awesome. There was a big hurdle to try and get over. Number 4, Duke Nukem Forever. Given that Duke Nukem Forever took 14 years to be developed, it's no big surprise we never got what we thought we were getting. Moving developers, switching game engines, being cancelled, coming back to life, it was ridiculous, and how it ever made it all the way through to shop shelves is a mystery. If you do go back to look at the first E3 trailers for Forever, however, and that can take you as far back as 1997, it really does look very good. Crazy shootouts, wild driving levels, violence, one-liners. You probably would have had a pretty good time with that. Looks over the top and fun. When it came out in 2011, some of these elements were still there, but ultimately it was incredibly boring and you could quite literally feel the problems the game had been through over the years. We never got what we were promised, and it probably would have been better if we'd never got anything at all. Number 3, Forza 5. No one really knows what happened when Microsoft released Forza 5 for the Xbox One, but it certainly didn't match up to what we had been told we were gonna get. When Turn 10's Racer was first revealed, something that was very noticeable were the crowd. They looked real, excited, happy, pleased to be in attendance. And more importantly, they weren't flat pieces of cardboard, because that's definitely what they were in the finished product. Looking absolutely awful. The developer had even copied and pasted many of these atrocities to make up the numbers, and it all seemed a little cheeky given that Microsoft had spent the whole time saying how powerful the Xbox One was. If that were true, why did we have this? The cars look good, sure, but if for some reason you really wanted a stellar crowd, well, you weren't getting it here. Number 2, Sonic the Hedgehog. In 2006, Sega hit rock bottom. Deciding to rethink Sonic to the point of even going back to the original title. This was the game that was meant to make the Hedgehog cool again on the Xbox 360 and PS3. Alas, this version was so bad and so buggy it soon became a huge joke. While the publisher had been hammering home that this would be the restart for its mascot, well, it just wasn't. It was beyond terrible and made it seem like everyone at Sega had no idea what they were doing. This was made worse because of all the advertising that made it look like the 1992 game dragged forth into the modern day. Sonic was impossible to control too, because even the tiniest touch of the joystick would send him running off like a loon. And then he kissed a human woman. Seriously, the hell was this? Number 1, Aliens Colonial Marines. Genuinely one of the biggest mishaps in video game history, Alien Colonial Marines was a disaster. For starters, the game itself was terrible. Boring, repetitive, bad looking and terribly written. It was the complete opposite of the demo footage Gearbox had shown off beforehand. There it looked awesome. So what happened? Well, as it turned out, Randy Pitchford's team weren't actually making the game, even though they said they were. Those guys had started work on the new Borderlands and they'd outsourced Aliens to someone else. What's worse, Sega, the game's publisher, had no clue this was going on, and the whole thing was a big mess. Gearbox did eventually step in to try and do what they were paid to do, but it was too late. The scrimping and saving had cost them dearly, and Colonial Marines was an absolute joke, and nothing like we were told it was gonna be. Know of any other games that were nothing like we were promised? Let us know in the comments below, and then don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Then be sure to follow What Culture on Twitter at WhatCulture, and visit whatculture.com for more articles. I am Simon from What Culture, and I will chat to you again soon.